All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second member showcase of the Decentralized AI Agent Alliance. Um, we've got the three great agents that are going to be showcased today. Um, we're going to start with Prometheus and then go to Air, and then we'll finish up with Katara. Um, and so there should be plenty of time for Q&A after each of the presentations. If anybody has an agent that they want to showcase, feel free to email me and we'll get you set up for the agent showcase next month. And I think with that, we generally have new members introduce themselves at the general meetings, which are we have two general meetings a month. One is an agent showcase, one is just kind of a general meeting. So you'll get a chance to introduce yourself at the next meeting. But welcome to all the new members. We continue to grow rapidly. And I think with that, I will stop sharing and turn the floor over to Al with Prometheus.
Hey, folks. Some of you might remember I gave a talk like last week. Sorry, a little bit of a cold. Last week or a week before, I think. We recently forked the coin node. So we're going to be providing that to Crypto Mondays pretty soon. For those that haven't seen it, this is what it looks like. I guess we'll get rid of Sundar here. One sec. So for those that haven't seen it, this is what the coin node looks like. It's designed to be an all-in-one platform for a variety of different DeFi applications. We've recently found that it's a really good hub for AI agents as well. The big advantage of this for AI agents is it gives you the ability to have all of your different things that you're participating in as an agent in one place. Sorry, I'm staring over a monitor over here. Prometheus is the latest one that we've released on top of this platform, though. What Prometheus does is it combines a GitHub account and a Claude credential. So when you go to run it, you actually have to provide your Claude API key here. We recently retrofitted this to run on Gemini as well. Gemini is going to be a big theme through this, hence the Sundar interview that I was watching before. The really cool thing about Gemini recently is that their free tier, as long as you let them train on your data, is completely free. So you get access to an incredible agent basically for free. And we have now thousands of coin nodes around the world in something like 70 countries. There's usually about 5,000 online at any given moment. And so you can actually ask them to do swarm operations for you and use all of these devices, which is pretty fantastic. And not only can they do what like a typical LLM would do, but on top of that, they're also able to write code, run code, and actually like iterate on things locally. So you can set up these multi-agent swarms where you have a leader in the swarm that acts like kind of a project manager. And then on top of that project manager, you actually have a whole bunch of other people working for them with different specialized skills. Of course, these are all different agents. And so we were able to create kind of feedback loops that lead to much better product outcomes, which we call soft magic or software magic. And this actually comes down to kind of industrial design more so than it does software design. It's actually pretty easy to customize. For those that don't know, there's a whole bunch of agent coding tools like Copilot and Cursor. These have become really popular recently. I think I have one open here. What they kind of look like, though, I guess I can get rid of you guys. What they kind of look like is you have an LLM on the right-hand side, and then you have your code base on the left. And so you're able to actually ask questions and then have the LLM edit the code. So these are pretty useful, but they're pretty much single-threaded for the most part. So you end up with situations where the things that you want to do require doing a bunch of things in parallel and then combining them, and the agent can only think about one thing at a time. So it tends to kind of get bogged down or go in like these kind of hallucination loops. So we were able to fix that recently with Prometheus. As I mentioned, we kind of use a swarm approach. So it gets rid of a lot of the tangled code base issues that you'd run into. It also gets you around like really complicated nested error patterns, which can be really frustrating to debug, which ends up with like pretty bug-free code that's often even better than what you get from a software developer. So Prometheus has been up and running for a little bit now. This was a talk that I gave a couple weeks ago. To give you an idea of how good vibe coding can be, though, I want to talk about Yeet for a sec. So Yeet used to be our chief of staff at Koi. He now runs a company called RBST Cloud. And what he's been able to do is using all the APIs for all the different hosting platforms, he's able to actually tap into those APIs and move things around from one hosting platform to another very, very seamlessly. And this is something that like, I think probably 6 to 8 months ago was very difficult and required being an expert in DevOps. He's been able to spin up his own entire company, and he saved us like 80,000 a month on hosting bills. So if anybody here's got big hosting bills, contact Yeet. Small shout out to him, but the key thing is he's able to do this because he's able to use a lot of AI tools to go through a huge amount of information, iterate very quickly, and then get to a solution that works. And these things, typically required a lot of copy pasting error codes into Stack Overflow like 2 years ago or even a year ago. but now are rapidly becoming solved problems, which is pretty cool. Um, so a lot of what we do at Prometheus is breaking down problems into like really clear, very small scoped issues. This allows us to then run tests on all of those issues. So when the agent writes code, it actually is testing it as it goes, which is actually often a lot less error prone than even a human developer would be. Test-driven development actually is something that they invented for human developers. It's very popular at large companies like Google. And that's kind of how you ensure that like a really large code base doesn't have new errors introduced when somebody's fixing one component and then leads to something else breaking. Most of the time, it's not really followed except at very large companies. By using agents, though, we end up with these really intricate kind of nested testing patterns so that we can verify everything works as we go. So you can even have agents working on different parts of your code base at the same time independently, and then have them combined back together. And this all happens out in the open on GitHub, which is pretty cool. So if you need a boost to your GitHub stats, it can also work. The long-term picture for this and kind of where we're headed with a lot of this agent stuff, I think, is microphone as interface technology. So this means moving away from screens and keyboards and all this stuff and just basically talking. The really cool option with this as well is just using a note taker like we have in this call, and then having that note taker actually go and design software or spin up a swarm for you in real time. So you can actually get responses back pretty quickly and even possibly by the end of a meeting like this, which is pretty cool. So you could actually see your product getting fixed in real time. So we're hoping to get there in the next year or two, though it's kind of an incremental path. I mentioned a bunch of this stuff already. This is a pretty technical talk that I repurposed from before. Just to kind of quickly go over it, though, the way that we structure this is we have a planner agent that breaks your task out into all kinds of different components. And then we have hacker agents that go work on each one of those. And then we have a red hat, which is a different kind of hacker agent, I guess. A red hat actually looks at the code and tries to break it or tries to find any kind of vulnerabilities, and then passes all of those back to an architect and optimizer node. And we go around this loop until your code is good enough, according to all the different agents. And once they all agree, then you get to give the final say. And once you're happy, then they all get paid. So it's kind of like hiring an outsourced firm, except that they're all agents and they tend to actually catch each other's work very well. So you can get pretty good feedback cycles and it leads to a pretty good outcome. This is probably a little bit more of a confusing graphic. Don't pay too much attention to what's written down. But the key thing here is we create all of these nested sub-bounties, as we call them. And so on GitHub, what you end up seeing is all of the different agents doing their work on GitHub in public and then wrapping it all back up to your original repo. So you end up with like 100 or 50 to 100 contributors on your repo at any given time. One of the neat things that we're now working on doing this for is, of course, using coin nodes. So as the Crypto Monday node comes out, you'll be able to potentially use this as a way of actually populating it with different tasks you want to do. One of the ones that I heard about was potentially scraping through LinkedIn to try to find like mutual connections and do matchmaking. So a lot of those kinds of services can be run this way. We're also doing this in the science area around biotech, anything that has to do with like scanning the internet for existing scientific publications and then reviewing them. So we could probably do something around AI research as well. And actually, as of yesterday, we also have somebody using this to research UFO sightings around the world and try to correlate all that information, which I find pretty cool. There's a whole bunch of this on my GitHub as well. So I have all of the Prometheus stuff open source, and then also a lot of my recent projects. This one in particular, the Swarms Koi task, is basically a Swarms AI using Gemini. So you can crowdsource Gemini keys, you can get them to go work on something, do correlated research, and then bring it all back to you. The cool thing about this is it's all crowdsourced. So on the coin node itself, you're able to choose the token that you want to issue. And so if anybody has a token, it's a great way to recruit extra free computing capacity, and then bring that all back to getting something back to your devices or your servers that you're already running. So it could be a pretty fun and interesting way to engage the community. We like doing it. It's very fun. So yeah, hopefully that covers everything. Any questions about any of this, or does anybody want to do a demo of Prometheus maybe?
A lot of info there. That was great. Just real quick, and open it up to questions if other folks have questions.
Sure.
You went over the that swarm flow. Obviously, swarms seem to be kind of an increasing part of this landscape. Can you talk about kind of what you've learned as you've worked with swarms over time?
Yeah, so I think one of the key things that people get wrong is we think of work as like a linear flow. So somebody comes up with an idea, they pass that to somebody who does it, that person gets reviewed, and then the job is done. Agents don't really work that way. They tend to, well, actually, they are dominated by context windows. So The more information that you give them, the worse they get at the job. And usually they only remember like the last chapter of the book that you write to them. And so what you kind of need to do is set up sequential workflows where you break things down and then pass them around the circle. And by doing that, you end up with a much better result. And it allows each agent to give kind of incremental feedback on something, which is, I think, very antithetical to how people do things. We like to try to get things done in one shot if we can. Often what we found is if you try to one shot, at least like AI-generated software, it tends to work out pretty poorly. If you try to one shot large research projects as well, it can be very bad. So one of the things that we found that works quite well is trying to kind of rank possible outcomes. So one of the things we do with our planner agents, for example, is we come up with a to-do list of all the things that could be done, and then we prioritize them. We only do one at a time, and then once one of those larger items is finished, then the next larger item can begin, and kind of create dependency trees. There's a lot of really interesting stuff for this from the industrial design processing world. I used to be in kind of industrial mechanics and robotics. And so that sector is very similar, oddly enough, to kind of orchestrating all these agents would be now. Yeah.
Very cool. Anybody else have a question? Just you can feel free just to unmute yourself and ask it or raise your hand. Sean?
Yeah, Al, super great project. I was wondering how your thoughts on security and making sure that these AI agent swarms generate secure code.
So that's one of the key things with using multi-agent swarms. So we actually have Red Hat in there who's actually trying to break it at any given time. And there's an incentive for the agents to try to break each other's work because they can audit each other and take the stake away. So by doing it that way, what you end up with is kind of like a pile-on effect, where if one agent notices that something's wrong, a bunch of them will go verify that, and you basically get multiple devices verifying the same information. Otherwise, you get into a loop where you're kind of trusting one agent to do it, and that tends to be where the hallucinations begin.
Very cool.
I wanted to pull up the Swarms website here. So this is my account on Prometheus. You can see I've got some available funds here, and I've got a bunch of different projects that are running now. And you can see the status at any given time and how many different agents are actually working on it. And then if you go into one of these repos, like this one, what you end up seeing in the pull requests is a whole bunch of agents trying to work on it together. And you can see, actually, well, this is Saeed, one of our head engineers, who looks like he was testing on my repo, which is kind of funny. But you can see the other ones here are all coming from different accounts that are each a point node. So if we go into one of these, we go into one of these like this, there it is. You can see when their node was online. So this guy was really active back when we did the first beta in February and March, and then he seems to have come back online recently for the latest round. But yeah, if anybody has any other questions about this, I'm around. I have my Telegram and Calendly link, so I can drop those into the chat, and we can catch up after.
Okay. Stuart, you want to? Here, we
Yeah,
have
I had my
more
hand
questions.
raised.
Oh,
just
sure.
real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Peter?
So I love what you're doing with the multi-agent approach. That makes a lot of sense. I can see how that's better than what's out there. But like, is this a defensible solution? Is there any IP around this? What's to prevent, the other big players from, adding the same type of features and functionality, and how do you sort of stay ahead of them?
So they have been. I think probably the large foundation models are the main people doing swarms right now. So the concept of swarms has been around since like 2018, 2019. We work with some of the larger kind of competitors in the space. Swarms.ai is a big one. We take a different approach to this, which is that like AI agents will most likely be aligned with a human. So you're not going to have like just rampant agents running off that have access to everything. What you actually want is like agents that have access to a particular person's social media account, their GitHub account, maybe to a crypto wallet so that they can do trading bots, which is also something we're looking at. And so the value of having a crowd of actual humans represented by agents is a lot higher than having a bunch of agents in a box. The exception would be things like scientific research. So Google's doing a lot with this, where they have like really big multi-agent clusters going on for like biomedical research. And those are definitely advantaged in that context, but there's also an element of like community crowdsourcing here. So the other area that we're looking at is like there's a lot of platforms like DAOs.fun out there where they're creating DAOs as like a community formation tool. And some of them are definitely pretty heavy on the shitcoins, but they're also like, because they've created a token, they now have a currency that can be backed by the community. And so if you're able to recruit a whole bunch of people with computers and then you can issue a token to them, it's like a good way of financializing it and like bringing in a group of people. And I guess the last point on this is what we're doing is also multi-foundation model. So you can have Claude compete against Gemini, compete against et cetera, all the way down the line. And it seems to work quite well. And I think that probably most of the foundation models won't take that approach in the near future because paying each other for API credits is kind of out of the question.
Gotcha.
But
All
yeah,
right.
the community side of it seems to really hook people in too. We've met a lot of really interesting folks lately that are very excited about just the community formation aspect. We get to keep all the new training data as well, so we get all the outputs.
Thanks, Peter. Last question is from Alan.
Yeah, quick question. You doing anything with agents reinforcement learning instead of just
Not much. Fine-tuning does work. We found is like using the RAG context is a little bit more efficient. Because if you're trying to fine-tune things, you end up kind of overfitting to the problem at hand. Whereas if you get better at using tools, we call it skill chaining. So if you get better at using tools with agents, it's kind of what the MCP groups are all doing now. The value of having really specialized use of tools and skills is a lot higher than trying to make a better agent. It's kind of like training a carpenter better is hard, but if you just give them a nail gun and a buzzsaw instead of teaching them how to use the saw and a hammer, then it's a little bit more efficient.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, in the name of time, well, thanks a lot, Al. You know, I know you're quite busy, so appreciate you taking the time today.
Of course.
And then next one will be James. You're up next. Logan
And you
asked.
see Taco has his hand up. Hi, Taco.
Ah.
Good to see you again.
Yeah,
he
I
looks
just
like
want to
he's-
make sure that we've got enough time for the three that we had scheduled, and we might only have two.
All good.
Because Logan is in some kind of hell at the moment.
Sounds good.
So we'll turn it
Thanks.
over to James. You ready? You got it. You're on mute.
Yep. Let me.
Right,
everybody
there we
should
go.
be able to hear me. And then let me share the screen. So I'm James with Katara AI. Previously been an executive at 2 AI companies that have been acquired, and I'm still learning how to share my screen on Zoom. I don't know why this is not.
There should be on mine. It's like a green button in the middle that says share. At the
Yeah.
bottom.
Yeah, I'm there. I don't. Let's see. You know what? I'm gonna drop and rejoin and share just because it's not working for whatever reason. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Okay, Taco, you want to ask your question of Al?
Yeah, no, GM. I apologize for running a little late, so I might have missed this. Al, are all these swarms, are they running on Koi and the 70,000 plus nodes within the Koi network?
Yep, exactly. With a whole bunch of different tokens too. So you can actually mint a token and then pay the nodes in that token. So assuming that you have a really good YouTube video or a good white paper, you can recruit a lot of capacity. Also, if you have an existing token, it's basically free computing. The goal is node operators typically don't happen to sell as much as like early investors would. So rather than taking money from VCs so that you can pay for hosting, you can just pay for hosting with your token, which is like fair launch elements to it.
What is going on with the encryption side of things?
So you don't need to encrypt a lot of this stuff. It's part of why we're focusing on open source code and these types of applications. What we do is we aggregate a lot of the results back to centralized servers. So if you're a DAO, for example, and you wanted to do a large research project, individual nodes would only have part of that, whereas you can keep the rest of it contained in a database that the DAO perhaps controls or can license out to people.
Okay, thanks,
Cool.
Taco. We
Good to
got
see you, man.
James is back.
I'm back. It should be working.
Yep,
Everybody see
we
my
can see it.
screen?
Yep,
Great.
agent library.
Just had to update the share settings. So I'm just gonna leave it. I know it's you can see the whole screen, but
Yep.
on the left there, we got the Katara AI dashboard. So as I was saying, done 2 AI companies in the past that have both sold. I'm most excited about Katara. We're helping companies adopt AI agents and building agentic AI workflows for companies, so that they don't have to do it themselves, because all the infrastructure, all the data enrichment becomes really tough and cumbersome. So I'm going to show you how we're solving that. We're solving a problem that almost every single company in Web3 has right now, which is you got to manage your communities, you got to get them the right information quickly. And so everything that we've built starts directly from the AI agent. You can make the agents really easily by just dropping a few links and configuring a few things, and you can have an AI agent live. And so we have a concept of workflows where they're pre-built AI workflows where you can get your tech docs automatically updated, split, organized in the correct ways. You can get your community manager to be basically clone your best community manager so you can answer every single question right away. And I'll show you what that looks like with actual great answers. And so we've thought from like a Web3 perspective, how do we enable more growth? And that is unblocking developers, helping DevRels, helping community managers do their job, 100 times better. And so that's where we've really start with. And so if I jump back over to the agent side, we've pre-built a couple of AI agents. So some are the loader agents, like our GitHub agent that will look at your code base. And it's as easy as like dropping a link to configure these agents. We just need to know which repo to check out. And you can check out these, different repos and add all of them. So then you can ask questions and start to prompt those docs or that code base to figure out what it really wants to do. So I actually pre-built a couple with these for DAIAA, so you guys can kind of get a look and feel. But everything that our engine runs is stored in our database. So every day we get more data. We're figuring out, what we should actually be putting in there based off of what's going on in the community. You can assign an expert role, but you can look at these and have a collection set up. And so this is important because that's the food or the data that your agents will be using to draft these responses. And then we're right now LLM agnostic. So if you want these run through Claude or OpenAI, it doesn't really matter to us. We can run it however you want. And everyone always asks, can you run this locally? Can you have the how can you make sure that the data is private? And we're actually working on some medical companies right now that really also need that PII completely private. So if you don't want to run through OpenAI, no problem. You can do that through our system. But why that's important is when you're uploading data to this, you can have multiple collections, you can have multiple knowledge bases, and then you can have different responses within those different tools. So an example might be you might set up one collection for internal communication, and that could be attached to your email and your Slack. And you might set up one that's more marketing and sales based that might be connected to your Discord or your Telegram, and it will answer Q&As in there. So we have this Gen AI tab, which I think is pretty cool, and you can ask it questions, and this will give the similar experience to what you might see in one of those channels. So if I jump in here and I go, what is DAIAA, and ask the question, our system will then look at the knowledge base. It will understand the intent of that question. It will draft up a response and then send the response with a confidence level as well as a link to where it found that data. So then, if you keep going, how do I join? It will answer everything right away. And I made this maybe 15 minutes ago while the first timer was going. So it's really quick to do this. And sometimes it doesn't always answer everything perfectly, but we have the ability to go in and add more data. And so if you do get this, you can grab up a response and it will give you, more information on that. So I'll jump over to a couple slides just because I think what's really important is, yes, our agents can run 24/7. Yeah, we can do all these great things, but I wanted to show you this slide in particular, which is like the data enrichment, and the data side is actually the most important piece of this, because without the great data set and doing the right classifications, the right taxonomy, you're not going to get the great answers. And that's why we have the confidence score. And that last question you saw, we were 95% confident that we gave the right response. You can play with those thresholds. And so if you only want to respond to things that you're hyper confident in, we can do that. Or if you want to lower the threshold, you know, I would recommend not going below like an 80% confidence level.
Yeah.
But, you know, our record is we've answered 3,800 questions in one day in one Discord for one server. And so it can scale, you know, that's the work of like 40 or 50 DevRels answering all those questions, giving responses, making sure that you're getting the right answers to the right users. And I think that's really important because we're basically unblocking and unlocking development. And the more development on your project, then the more revenue, the more awareness, the higher your token price, all those things that the more adoption that, you know, happens. So I'll show you what this looks like in a live server. I was scrolling through the Morpheus server and we had a question, looks like it was a couple days ago, but you know, how do I stake more? Katara's in there. It's answering in real time, you know, and citing the sources based on the GitHub, how to stake Morpheus. And I think I saw a couple other replies in here over the last couple days. Here's another one. And so this bot can constantly be in there, constantly monitoring your social channels. So Slack, Telegram, Discord. We should be live with our web widget where you could literally prompt their docs on their website for the graph. That should be live here in about 2 weeks. But it makes it really easy to manage and grow your community based off of your actual data. And I think the vector databases, the graph databases, those are the exciting things. Creating reg is not the most difficult thing in the world, but the nuance behind it and doing it really well is. This is a way where, you know, in about 15-minute span, you can have a live DevRel, that companion that's like 10 times as good as your existing best DevRel. And then there was one other thing that I wanted to show you in the interest of time was because this is the decentralized version, we launched a very cool program with Morpheus where you can stake more tokens for access to Katara. And so this is the More Builders program. You can find Katara. We have 16 stakers at the moment, but if you stake 1,000 more tokens, you get access to Katara, 5,000 generative AI events, and then there's different thresholds. So if you stake 1,500, you get more generative AI events and support, and if you stake over 2,000, you get up to 10,000 generative AI events, and you get more DevRel hours as support. So that's one way I really like this because this could evolve to, you know, us basically paying for our compute or paying for our inference in a decentralized way and paying for all the AI based off the emissions of staking. So I think it's an interesting way to grow this ecosystem, get you access, expand on, you know, our presence on AI, and yeah, go from there. I think the one thing I can't show you is this screen, which it should be in the UI in a couple weeks, which is our doc generator. And so if you have 200 tech docs living, you know, we can look at the code base, look at the recent commits, suggest updates, suggest edits, suggest splits, and then we've provided this human in a loop so you have full control. So you'll always have updated documentation. And I think kind of back to the original data enhancement, you know, narrative, the data is the most important part. If you have better documentation, you can get better answers, you get better answers, you get more development. So that's why we've taken this approach of like making sure you have great tech docs and then making sure you have like a world-class you know, Q&A bot that is much more than just a Discord Q&A bot and available in Telegram as well, but it's really powerful because it cites its sources and I haven't seen anyone else doing it that way. So yeah, that's a little bit about Katara. I think I saw one question in the chat or someone raise a hand. Let me check that. Where did my Zoom go?
I didn't
Or
see
Alex,
it. Let's see.
unmute and ask.
So
Right.
Al, you had your hand up. I was just going to ask real quick. You know, when you showed it answering those things in the Discord,
Yeah.
you know, do you know if those are people asking questions or are those bots asking questions? Is it just bots talking to bots or?
We've had to get pretty good at that because you don't want to like, this is the Katara Discord, but like you don't want to answer all these good mornings, right? There's a lot of nuance. And so if I go into ours, I'll show you how fast it'll answer. You know, what is Katara AI? It should, we're actually gotten really good at the latency lately. But it should answer about 5 to 7 seconds. And I want to, yeah, there we go. And then it will cite its sources. So again, it's faster than a human. It's pretty slick. And then you can constantly like curate your knowledge base you know, with more data if it's not answering questions that you think it should be.
Okay,
So,
terrific. Al?
Sure. The bot, can we rename it?
that is the #1 most asked question. And absolutely, that's a different tier. You can rename it, you know, that's just a little bit a higher tier.
Gotcha. Cool.
Where do you want the name to be?
Are you using any particular embedding or particularly interesting embeddings libraries for this?
I'll ask my CTO if we are. I don't think we are, but let me, I can shoot you a Telegram message on the embedding question.
Cool. Yeah, we should chat. Bye for now.
Okay,
Well,
thanks a lot, James.
Thank you, everybody.
Glad that we were able to make it happen. And then we have our third and last agent, Air from Logan.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Welcome you in New York.
Yeah, I'm here in New
Right.
York. I'll see you guys tonight.
Welcome.
I'm Logan. Been in this space for about 15 years and a software developer my whole life, last 22 years.
It's a cool background. It looks like you're in a hotel bed.
I am, yeah, I'm laid out in a bed working on bugs. So I think what I can do is just kind of explain, you know, what we've been doing since October. We've had Eliza OS, #1 trending GitHub repository in the world Q4. You know, obviously the rise and fall of the token to whatever price it is today. You know, we curated a ton of different applications throughout the ecosystem. A lot of partners, you know, expose and you know, considerably things that are more mature coming out in the near future. And some things that we've been working on, such as, you know, this Eliza V2 that has Swarm and specifically Degen Spartan, which is a trading and LP optimization bot. We're wrapping things up with that, and then we're going to be injecting him specifically into the DeFAI ecosystem, DeFAI, DeFAI, whatever you want to call it. Which is what I'm actually working on bugs right now. The smart contracts are done with Boosty, and they're in audit right now with Zokyo. So those are allowing agents to, and once we, you know, quote unquote, build our moat, we're going to be open sourcing these contracts as well, so other people can integrate them into their own projects. Through you'll be able to leverage them to have agents mitigate and migrate LP based on your preferences across multiple Orco whirlpools. So this should be done. They said the audit will be done in the 23rd. We'll have an out report, and then we'll have that integrated, showing from an example in DeFAI by probably, hopefully, the end of this week, middle of next week. You know, this is supposed to be a showcase. I could show the thing that I'm trying to work these upstream bugs out with, but I don't know if it's going to work. That's why I'm late, and that's why I just wanted to hop on and say hi.
Sure. Well, appreciate it. Yeah, if you want to show us, yeah, learning why something doesn't work, or
yeah, I mean, I'll share my screen. You know, the thing that we've really recognized is you know, nothing is field of dreams, and you can build it, but they will not necessarily come. So you know, what we've built is, you know, a reason for people to continuously show up and kind of examine a daily, right? You know, so we're doing like a Web 2.5, you know, 3.2, whatever you want to call it here, web app where, you know, you come, we're making rewards kind of the necessary component to keep that carrot and stick optionality available. You know, as Twitter as the top ID, you can log in with any wallet that you want, but then having a you know, kind of having like a referral based system where you can come in and, you know, bring your friends in is very important, because obviously if you can't flex what you're doing, you know, nobody's really going to care, right? But bear shits in the woods. So, you know, making these incentives to keep people aligned, and then, you know, we're using this kind of Metaplex 404 standard to migrate liquidity between pools very seamlessly. So this is something that still a feature that's being done. The yield is still being integrated on a different thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm at an IRL conference stuck in my hotel room working on bugs. So I'm gonna try to wrap this up before I got to meet you guys, and seem
Okay.
pretty chipper tonight. But I just wanted to jump on and say hi. You'll be able
Okay,
to join a
yeah.
squad, create proposals. The main thing we saw specifically in DeFi is that you would stake something, either LP, mainly LP, and then stake that LP, and then earn the underlying asset of what you staked previously. 1 second, I just gotta tell her I'm not available right now. I don't know if you guys know Megan, but she's got a great podcast and a great new vodka line. So the issue with DeFi, the underlying asset, people would sell that thing that they earn. Obviously, that's what they're there for, and that would cause a downward spiral in the project's token because they're earning the project's token. So we've put that on its head, where you provide LP with the specified pools. You stake that LP, you earn a yield-bearing asset, and then that yield-bearing asset gives you, a universal high income effect from the ecosystem's fees. And instead of selling the yield-bearing asset or unwrapping your CDP and then selling those assets, you're now selling the logically highly liquid token that people vote on. So some are like, we're partnered with Animoca. They're going to be voting on Mocha or some other in ecosystem token, because they want those buybacks and those fees. What we're probably going to see is the greater ecosystem is going to vote on getting Solana or USDC or some other highly liquid token, because that needs to be able to absorb the sell pressure from the users using this as their UHI machine, whether they're agents or they're human sympathizers. So creating that as a platform, and then allowing people to come in and manage their team, whether they're agents or they're humans. You can invite either or to participate in the rewards mechanism that we've created. And we're shopping this around to principalities, nation states, and governments as this collateralized UHI mechanism for stable yield and what is now called UHI. So I've got a lot of work to do. We have momentum. There's the existing DeFAI token. We have some momentum there, but DeFAI summer is now about a month away. So we're barreling towards that goal.
Exciting stuff. Can you share, how early discussions with the governments have been going?
Yeah, the governments love, there's a few things that really let you keep and hold a conversation with legislators. It's how do you get them reelected? How do you get them donations? And how do you increase tax revenue? So, how do you get them reelected? How do you increase tax revenue? You tax the AI agents at the source. How do you get donations? Mainly, having them engage in crypto projects, because we have all the money now. And then how do you get them reelected is telling the human.
You want to stop sharing?
Oh yeah, I'm sharing the infinite mirror here. And then how do you get them reelected is telling their human voters and their human constituents that their tax rates are going to go down, because now we're taxing the AI agents at the source. And the money and for the new roads and schools are going to be coming from the revenues that are being earned by AI agents. So this is the conversation that we're having around ELIZA Systems, which is the government agency arm of ELIZA OS. And we have a 501c4 on the Hill that kind of manages those relationships as well.
Cool stuff. I look forward to digging in a little bit deeper into the migrating liquidity that you mentioned. And I don't know if you have time for a question or two, but Taco.
Yeah, definitely. I see Taco. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
Good. Finally see you in your element.
So you mentioned that specifically Orca pools. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit more. There's more involved, but are you going to be aiming towards Meteora as well? And how do I look at integrations with HawkFi?
Meteora. Let me. So we went with Orca because they were the first to come out the gate with a plugin for Eliza. I don't interactions with Ed. It looks like we have an Edwin tools. Eliza. All right. So they've done a fee distribution mechanism with DAM v2. So I'll have to ask the devs to see if the Rust developer inlet NFT transfer. Yeah, I think it'll just be a couple weeks before we do Meteora. It seems like this is more recent. Yeah, April. Yeah, so we started the contracts in like February. So April 16th, they did a case study with DAMM v2, which I'll put in the chat here. And then what was the other one? You said HawkFi?
HawkFi. So HawkFi, yeah, HawkFi is doing like the auto rebalancing, auto liquidity management over Meteora and Orca. So someone can, drop in one-sided and then automated liquidity rebalancing.
Nice.
I know that they're moving. I've been talking with the team, and I know that like Theo and team is working on some cool AI stuff as well. So I didn't know if you were in on that.
So this is the first I've heard of it. Concentrated liquidity yield optimizer for active LPs on Solana. Yeah, this is cool. I'll take a look. I don't know if they're necessarily using an Eliza, but it seems like they have some optimizer engine that they're integrated.
Yeah. It's good to see you too, Logan, by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to miss you at Accelerate.
Yeah, no worries. I'll probably see you. This is my last one for the summer, and then I'm going to be in Singapore.
Super AI or token?
Token in Singapore, yeah.
That'll be a party.
Yeah.
That'll be awesome.
Does anybody else have anything they want to ask Logan? Going once? Twice? Okay, terrific. Thanks a lot for stopping by, Logan. Much appreciated. We'll see you in a few hours. So we are done with the showcase part of today's call. I don't know if anybody else has anything that they want to ask or mention or highlight. Yonks? Jason?
Yeah, thank you, Lou. I just put in the Telegram the conversation, first one for AIMS, Artificial Intelligence Management System. So got until 5.
Oh, yeah, the group meeting. Awesome.
No, this is for people that want to participate. Add your availability to the Let Us Meet, and we'll get that scheduled, finalized by 5 Eastern today.
Okay. When you get it finalized, send me something. So I'm going to put in together a newsletter. I'll highlight it in.
Will do. Thank you, Lou.
Okay. Deli?
Yeah, I just wanted to just give a quick update on Monday and just show people where we're at with that. If that's got a few minutes for that.
Rock and roll.
All right. So as everybody knows, we've been working on Crypto Monday's AI agent, Agent Monday. We're sort of on our most recent iteration of it. So anyone who's been following this knows at the heart of it, we have been using this iCube framework to basically manage information sharing with the agent. But essentially, we've simplified it all really down now. So really, we have a dashboard, but this effectively is going to change. It's going to become a welcome screen. But essentially, the kind of main gist of it is that we have this Monday agent who we engage with, and that has context and awareness around us and around Crypto Monday specifically. Us is by way of an Monday iCube, which has got specific information about each of us as an individual user. And then there are various services that can sort of be consumed within that. But key thing is that it's really essentially an agent that's honed in on Web3 specifically, and then Crypto Monday specifically as well. So we have a Monday knowledge base that we're integrating with KBAI, and this kind of drives a key part of the inference around the system. So we can ask it, tell me about Crypto Mondays, for example, and it will give us very honed answers on that. And the key thing, so very sort of targeted information around that. Now, the key thing that we're doing is like the MCP integration for tools. At the moment, we're currently doing this with Google Docs, and I don't think I'm connected. Yeah, I'm not going to waste time showing you, but you have to put your API keys and index keys in here, and then that brings up Google Docs, and that can be accessed, made to question. You can bring those documents into the agent for it to question around that. Otherwise, it's knowledge that comes within the knowledge base. With KBAI specifically, KBAI have built a Telegram integration with the chatbot, so that will actually refresh the knowledge base based on engagements that are happening in Telegram as well, which are pulled in here. And, you've got pretty easy controls, again, all sovereign, self-sovereign being the key thing here. At the moment, we're using GPT 4.0 as the LLM, but we're essentially migrating to using, we have Venice integrated on the agency platform. So one of the key things is that there'll be an MCP connection between this Agent Monday template and the agency platform, where we'll be able to consume any different one. So Venice AI is the main one we're using there, where we have censorship resistance and privacy preservation. And you have all sort of full controls around those that you can see here. One thing that I think is quite interesting, and I'll show it to you first of all in the chat, so you can kind of see how this works for agent-to-agent commerce, is that if I'm just going to put wallet risk, and if I use any sentence which has got wallet risk in the prompt, then effectively this generates effectively a recommendation on a particular agent that could be used. And in this case, this is one that we're working with in our ecosystem, but you could activate that agent, and then effectively this can be token gated. So, I mean, this is simulation in terms of what's happening here, but it's pretty easy for us to integrate this framework into this now, so that you can pay for services on a micropayment basis or microtransaction basis as you're going through. And we can then, in our settings, actually I have to go back here and go back to settings, but we can essentially highlight different services that can be made available. I think if I close Metis and then go back to settings, so here we can activate different services, and the idea is that we can bring different agents from within the ecosystem, DAIAA members, for example, and they can all be showcased here and made available to the ecosystem, and they can be integrated into, activated through specific function calls or keywords and prompts, and kind of build up the whole ecosystem. So, it kind of becomes this agent-to-agent commerce framework where we're all able to share information and share services with each other. And we can even use our Monday profiles in those services accordingly. So as this is now, the great thing is that you can, if I deactivate all of these services, then I'm essentially, the prompts are anonymous. The interaction with the agent, with the LLM, is essentially anonymous, where there is none of my information being shared. And then I can then bring in different services to augment that service or data accordingly. So, and that also includes when we share information with other agents that are in the ecosystem. And you over as you do an inference. So again, you'll see here what if I say what is trust?
Yep.
Yes, for example. And yeah, I'm just wrapping up. You can see here, as this processes, you get this reliability score and trust score per inference based on the models and agents that you're using. So this is basically getting ready. We're getting ready to do the final sort of refinements to this and launch it at next week at BTC Vegas. So yeah, look out for more.
Cool. Thanks, DAIAA. Vegas should be fun. Gonna have for those in New York tonight. As I said before, we got a great Crypto
Absolutely.
Mondays with Logan, and then those in Vegas on next Monday. We've got a great Crypto Mondays actually at the Sphere, so that'll be a memorable one. Alina, got your hand up?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just have a quick question, probably to DAIAA. So I finally succeeded to deploy my emotionally intelligent MCP AI agent focused on Spanish learning and bilingual form for families. It's for me, it is it's a great, how to say, accomplishment, and I want to start finally monetizing it because it's extremely has a social mission. It will have lots of families to dive into Spanish quickly on the go. It's unique application. I see it because I've got a great review of all these AI tutors of languages that just do not work in practice. And I would just ask DAIAA, please, can you give me an advice? Maybe I should somehow use Monday or other platform to start showcasing or monetizing or promoting my agent. Thank you.
Yeah, no, look, I think this is such an early space. The industry is still so young. I think the main thing to really focus on now is adoption. Just what's the user journey? How do people get access to the agent? How do people interact with it and learn from the processes? And we're all figuring out what the user experience looks like, and the UI and all of that will be refined. And I think once you've got that honed and cranking and working, it's, then there are lots of really novel ways to monetize it as well. I think this is another thing. I think, James's presentation and, a lot of what's coming out of the Morpheus ecosystem and a lot of what's being done in the fair launch space generally, these are new ways of monetizing as well. So I think you should be open to exploring those, like in terms of staking and earning access to agents through staking, for example. These are really interesting new models. But I think the most important thing at the moment is just to get traction in terms of usability, can people use it, and sort of adoption. And then from there, I think you'll be able to explore monetization through crypto means pretty easily.
Cool. Okay, thanks, Elena, for the question. Thanks, everybody, for showing up today. I thought we had 3 great showcases. And again, if you want to showcase your agent next month, let us know, and have a great Crypto Mondays, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.